Hi guys, it's Shirah Benarde, the CEO and co-founder of NightCap. We are on a mission to prevent drink spiking, and today we have here Carrie Pasquarello, who is the CEO and co-founder of Global Secure Resources. Now, this episode is mainly for parents, but students can watch it too. But parents, I want you to watch and listen to everything that Carrie says because she has spent many years teaching families, organizations, and students how to protect themselves when they travel. Carrie is also the author of a book called Study Abroad Safety, which you can all get below. We've linked it in the caption for you so you can grab this before your student goes off to college. Now, I hope you guys enjoy this. You can also schedule time with Carrie so you can really prepare yourself and your student for traveling abroad.
We need to understand that the leading cause of death at college campuses is unintentional deaths. Every year we lose about more than 4,000 individuals under 21 to alcohol-related poisonings or accidents.
What do you think a parent should do, like if a kid were to say, nothing bad's gonna happen to me?
My book is for parents. Study Abroad Safety, a parent's guide to sending your child. It's a collaborative effort, but it really starts with the parents leading the children into understanding what's important for their safety and security.
What do you hope someone takes away from reading your book?
Oh, well, I hope that they take the foundation of the responsibilities on each and every one of us. We can't pass off our safety to somebody else. We need to be an active participant in making sure that what we do safer and we're more successful. And really what that comes down to is we're going to save time, we're going to save money, and we're going to be more successful in the end.
So how did you get into this, Carrie? Because you're so knowledgeable on all the topics. And I'm wondering, how you initially came across this safety industry and why you chose to spread this mission and then, write a book and make people so aware on safety in the first place. Like, what got you here?
Well, that's such a fabulous place to start because when I was younger, I loved to explore the world, and I often talk about risk appetites. And this is like what you're willing to do in order to accomplish your mission in life. And so my risk appetite has always been high. I would travel the world. I explored. I was a solo traveler, and I came into contact with some really scary situations where I had to write a victim impact statement. I was stalked. I had so many different things happen to me, but I was able to navigate them all successfully. And then I had children, and then I'm sending my children out into this world. And I wanted to make sure that they had exactly the same strategies, techniques that I had in order to navigate this world safer. And a perfect example, which really pushed me into launching my business, was in a situation that happened with my daughter. And we were living over in Asia, and I sent her off to a study abroad program in Egypt. And of course, before she left, I went over strategies and what to do and how to stay safer. And one of those little tips literally saved her life. And there she was in a hotel. There was a knock at the door. It was a man. He said he was with maintenance. He said he was there to fix her air conditioner. She didn't open that door. She remembered a strategy that we talked about. You never open the door to an unannounced guest. You always call the front desk. And that's exactly what she did. She called the front desk and said, "Hey, did you send a maintenance person to my door?" And they said, "No, we didn't." Now that still chills me to this day because she literally saved her own life with that strategy. Because we know nobody would ever come to your door and lie about who they are, lie about why they're at your door, and lie about why you should open that door to them unless they're a criminal. And she was able to avoid a horrendous situation because we know the criminals that use this technique globally do a lot of harm to people in this world. And so that was one of the motivating factors. I said, this little strategy saved her life. I know I can share this with other parents. And so writing my book, Study Abroad Safety, a parent's guide to sending your child abroad, I incorporated all these different things that I used in my life. But also what I learned by working for the State Department, working in an embassy, And all those strategies that I learned that really helped me be more successful, I put that all into this book.
What did your daughter say about that moment after it happened? Does she ever still talk about it to this day?
Well, it's interesting because I put it in my book and we do talk about it because, that was probably a motivating factor into the line of work that she has gotten into. And, that was just pulling, it's like pulling a thread. You pull that and then you're looking out into this world. And I know for her, she's been able to adapt to so many different situations in this world. She's traveled the world. She's gone to more than 30 countries, but she's done it all successfully because of that one strategy kind of led to numerous strategies that she's still using today and sharing with other people, I must add.
Yeah, that's amazing. And when you are typically talking to people that are curious about your work, I assume more so families, parents, what do you find that they're most afraid of? Do you feel like that's usually the right thing to be afraid of?
Well, it's not. So one of the things that I say is I don't want people to be afraid. I want them to explore this world with being empowered. Okay. So there's one of my favorite books that I've read, and I hope other people will pick this book up, but it's called The Gift of Fear by Galvin D. Becker. And it talks about utilizing your intuition. And so this is what I want. I want people to understand if they feel fear, they have to react, and you have to have strategies, tools, and techniques. You have to have the ICE formula, which is identify, calculate, and escape. There's all these different ways that we can look at fear, but that's not what I want people to have. I want people to be empowered with the knowledge that they need to be able to navigate this world. So it's not fear. It's not scaring. It's preparing. That's what I always like to start off with.
Yeah, and it's so interesting you talk about intuition because the interview I did before you today was with the girls from Safely Pepper Spray, and they also talk about how your intuition can be more powerful than the tool that you have on you. They're not saying that it's more important, but it can tell you so much before that situation actually occurs. So when we're talking to parents right now for back to school, what are those conversations that they should be having with their students before move-in day?
Yeah, that's a really great place to start because I always think about being proactive, prepared, and protected. And this, we can start with dorm room safety. We need to look at life skills. We need to look at personal safety strategies that also include cybersecurity. So these are the conversation starters. But one really interesting thing that I always like to start with parents are the facts, right? And as you're sending your student off to a campus, we need to understand that the leading cause of death at college campuses is unintentional deaths. And so one of the most important things I want parents to have a conversation with their student about is alcohol consumption. Every year we lose about more than 4,000 individuals under 21 to alcohol-related issues, alcohol-related poisonings or accidents. And one really important thing that we need to talk about is underage drinking. This is a significant health issue with severe consequences. And so there's a video that I really want parents to take some time to look at, and that's called Breathe, Nolan, Breathe. It's on YouTube, but Breathe, Nolan, Breathe really, it looks at one particular student and the ordeal his family went through with Nolan. And it's such an eye-opener, such an important place to start that conversation about alcohol consumption with your students. Another place to start the conversation is with mental health issues. I want our students to understand there are safety lines for them. And this is something that a parent can share with their student. Any type of mental health issues, there are lifelines that like the 988 crisis line that they can use to call to talk about any type of mental health issues. But we really need to talk about that because every single year we have more than 24,000 attempted suicides. And from that, we have over 1,000 that are successful. Now, this is something really important to be able to discuss with our children. And I always love to talk to parents about this because I say, these conversations might be really difficult to have, but they're so much easier to have a conversation about prevention than it is to have a conversation after a catastrophic event happens. It's the preventative strategy that's so much better. And also having that open communication with your student is a really great place to be.
Let's talk more about that because the reason I started this YouTube series was because I had a parent say to me, Shirah, what do I tell my student before she goes to college? And I felt like that was a very loaded question because as someone who went to college for not too long, but I still went, I feel like I was someone who, if my parents sat me down and, had a lot of these conversations, I think that I don't know if I would have taken it seriously. And you're, addressing the fact that, that can potentially happen. So what is the right way for parents to get this information to their kids? And what do you think a parent should do? Like if a kid were to say, nothing bad's going to happen to me.
Yeah. So that's interesting because there are a lot of families out there that might not have a really great communication, ability with one another. Sometimes students are saying, "Mom and Dad, I know everything. Please, I know it all. You don't need to talk about safety because I have it all handled." Okay. So I hear that a lot. And this is why one of the special programs that I have it's called the gift of safety. And you can give your student the gift of safety from Global Secure Resources. And what I do is I have that personal conversation with the student and we cover so many, risks and hazards at school so we can get them right on key points of how to close their safety gap, because that's what it comes down to. And sometimes students don't want to listen to their parents. So a lot of parents will just have me do a consultation, a quick hour, conversation with their student before they go off to college. But, what I always say, it's so much better to start these conversations when they're in middle school, when they're in high school, making sure that you have that open communication so that if there is an issue with your student at college, they feel comfortable calling you. One of the things that I did with my kids was if at any point there is something that comes up and you feel that you need to get out of a situation, and you need to leave a party or whatever, just call me and I will be there in a second. And I had that happen once. And I didn't ask any questions, but they called me at 2 a.m. and they said, "You know what? I need to come home." And I said, "I'm going to jump in my car now." And that's exactly what I did. Unfortunately, for some parents, your student might be states away. They might be hundreds of miles away from you. So what do you do in that situation? And that's why I always like to strategize specifically for each student of their situation of where they are and what are the resources around them. One important resource that I always like the students to do is go ahead and put the non-emergency police line in your phone. Because sometimes students say, "Oh, is this an emergency? Do I call 911?" And then maybe they don't, when in reality, they should have. And if they call the non-emergency line, they can explain what's happening. It's a free service. And then they can decide whether it should be upgraded to a 911 call. But making sure that we're talking with our students about the resources that are available to them before they leave, that is critical. One of the areas that I worked on a crisis hotline, a rape crisis hotline. And so I took those 24-hour calls from victims and also family members. And we also hosted community awareness prevention programs, and I facilitated survivor speaker calls and talks around the Boston area. These were really important conversations that were being had in our communities. And if the students know that these resources exist, that's a really important starting point for the parents to be able to give that to the kids.
That's amazing. I remember when I was in college, they had a specific number to call for actually like a ride home. Like a golf cart would come and pick you up.
Yeah.
And then they also had like a security call, like a security number for campus safety. In what situation are you telling someone to call campus safety versus like the non-emergency line?
Sure. Well, it all depends on how they're feeling. If they're feeling that they are in danger, they should be calling 911. If they're in a situation where they think maybe a fellow student is in need of help, but they're not sure if it's a 911 call, I would say call the non-emergency police line. If I needed a ride home and it was dark out, once again, I would want to have that resource of getting the campus to escort me back to my dorm. And the interesting thing is the campuses around our nation are really good at having these resources, but it's making sure that you're utilizing them, making sure that we're talking about them so that they understand what is available. And once again, it comes down to how are you feeling? This is where we can start. Am I feeling in danger or am I feeling uncomfortable?
I think all of this information is so digestible, and I love how you communicate it. So, um, you know, tell us more about like where, if we wanted to go, I know you have a book, tell us more about the book, and then we can talk more about like traveling abroad, because we've touched a little bit on campus. For the parents that want to and are preparing to send their kid abroad, tell us about, what resources you have that can help them prepare for that.
Yeah. And just going really quickly back to the parents sending their kids to college, I want them to look at their dorm safety. I want them to have the conversation with their students about the locks on not only their doors, but their windows. I want them to have like tools like a doorstop, an alarm doorstop, because one thing that I always talk with parents is you're only as good as your weakest link. So if you're in a dorm situation with, let's say, 5 other girls and you all have your private rooms, but one of your roommates brings people home late at night that maybe you don't know, I want that student to be able to have a special door lock on their door so that nobody can come in while they're sleeping. Another really important thing to look at is bed rails for dorm beds that are lofted. There's a lot of nonprofits that were started because of catastrophic events on college campuses. And so another resource I want parents to look at is Rachel's First Week. I want them to look at don't stall, just call. There's another one called Bailey's Wish Foundation. There's another one called Rail Against the Danger. These are nonprofits that have been started because of something that happened. And the parents started these nonprofits to help others avoid these issues. So I want parents to know about that. And then also, understanding the red zone before you get to the college. That those 4 first months of a college experience are at the highest rate for sexual assaults and other assaults. So we want to make sure that we understand what the red zone's about. And if we get into my book, which is Study Abroad Safety, a lot of the issues that I cover are for on campus or abroad. It's for around the corner or around the world. And inside this book, I have a whole section on the red zone. So this is such a vital piece of information for parents, and then they can give it to their student to read as well. So, and then that goes into life skills. How can we look at our values and our boundaries to actually strengthen our safety? And so, if anybody wants to get the book, they can get it on Amazon. They can come to my website, which is globalsecureresources.com. They can find the book there and other offers that we have. But everything is really intended to elevate our students and our families, making sure that they're safer no matter where they are in this world.
Amazing. So, you mentioned a few different tools, physical products. Is there a place that we can go to get all of those things that you mentioned, the door stopper, all those safety products? Is there one stop shop?
Well, interesting because I'm launching a new app, and on my app has a list of all these products. So they can also email me at gsr@globalsecurestudent.com, and I will send them the safety list, which, just off the top of my head, I can show you. Here's my alarm, the door alarm. That's fabulous. Oh, another thing that I love is my nightcap. I'm always telling my parents about the nightcap, which I love. And then our webcam cover, because you can't be too careful. You want to make sure nobody can open up your camera without you knowing. I want you to be intentional with your camera. We have our data blocker. So when you're traveling, nobody can put malware into your cell phone or computer. And we have the stash band, which is a place for you to keep your passport so you can be hands-free. And I love that on campuses or off campuses. So as you're walking, nobody can do a purse snatching. And then, of course, one of my other favorite items is my Invisaware, which I tell parents all the time. It's one of those pieces of jewelry that is literally life-saving. A double click and it can send your GPS location to your closest contacts. And it's just one more level of safety. So there's so many great things. And that's the beauty of having a consultation is you get everything delivered to you, right?
Wow.
So I love that.
Thank you. That really simplified it for, I feel like, me and everyone. That's such a great, I love how you had it all right next to you and you even had your Invisaware on your, on your wrist, and it's all
Yes.
about layered protection is something
I
that
have my little toolkit. It's everything. I just love it so much.
I love it. We need a global secure, like, little.
Resource box.
Yes, yeah, we do. And Raja talks all about layered protection. When I'm with her, Raja's the CEO and founder of Invisaware, that jewelry that Carrie was just showing. She talks a lot about like layered protection, stacking your safety, and so like having your Invisaware on your wrist and having your nightcap, in your hair, and just those levels are so important. And I feel like the education as well, like that's considered layered protection and just making sure that you're covering all bases, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the areas that I focus on too is situational awareness, right? And we have two ways of teaching situational awareness. It's with the 2 R's, which is risk and resource, and also the baseline check. And so both of those elevate our students or our travelers to be aware about what's around them so that they can be more successful in whatever they're doing. And that's what it comes down to. We want you to be safe, successful, and go explore the world and have an amazing time doing it. Because that's what life's all about, right?
Yes, I love your energy around traveling and the way you make it feel super empowering, because I'm just like you where, I want to see the world. I find that, traveling, it kind of puts my brain at peace, and it's so important for us to, to get to see it and get to immerse ourselves in different cultures. So I appreciate all the work you're doing to make people feel like they can do it freely and safely. And if there's anything else that you wanted to mention before, we wrap things up, if there's one thing you can leave parents with, to either a safety tip or just an empowerment piece of, advice, I'd love for you to share.
Oh, thank you so much. I just want to say thank you so much for having me today. I'm glad we got to cover so many important topics affecting our college students, and we want to get them prepared and ready for this new adventure in their life. But what I want to say is I want parents to be able to reduce the risk of their students. And this is by starting that conversation, by understanding how can we mitigate risks? How can we teach our kids critical thinking skills that will last a lifetime? And that is what the gift of safety is. You're giving them something that will last them throughout their whole entire life, just like what I gave my daughter. I want you to be able to give it to your children. So just connect with me. Find me on Instagram. You can find me at, globalsecureresources.com. And we are always collaborating on fabulous safety stuff in this space. So thank you so much again.
Thank you. This was amazing. Thank you so much, Carrie.
All the best.